What happened at a wedding that let you know the marriage was going to end in a divorce? The groom looked drunk and the bride seemed incredibly angry. Then there was this woman walking around during the reception placing bets on when they would divorce. I later found out she was the mother of the groom. I mean, if that's what the groom and his mother were like, I don't know if that girl wasn't right to be angry. The groom said in his speech, "When I joined a dating agency, I never thought I'd be so lucky as to find my own personal cook, dishwasher, and washing machine." Not only is that a shitty way to describe anyone, he's in for a nasty surprise when he realizes his wife is actually a complete diva and will expect him to do all those things for her. Bad relationship all round. The groom stabbed his new brother-in-law to death, with the knife used to cut the wedding cake no less. Well, technically it happened at the reception, not the wedding. Backstory: about 4 years before the wedding, the wife's brother had shot her in the leg during an argument. Yes, alcohol was involved. At the reception he started loudly telling the guests that he wished he'd shot her in the head instead, at which point the groom got stabby. Alcohol was again involved. So he was defending the honor of his wife. He was just 400 years late of it being the right thing to do. At the rehearsal dinner, the groom's mom is in tears, because he looks miserable, and he was. We all knew it. During the vows they had written for Agatha, the bride starts with, "I know I can be a pretty terrible person, and I don't know why you've stuck around. But that's all going to change starting today." They were divorced a year later. I remember attending a lecture where the speaker said something along the lines of, "Women, don't expect marriage to change your boyfriend's habits. It's just a piece of paper for formality's sake. If he's a dick now, that isn't going to change once you're married. So get out while you still can." Works both ways too, I guess. My cousin, the bride, told us, as she was going from table to table thanking the guests, that she didn't think it would last. We were stunned. They lasted about a year. Can you take your gift back at that point? Would it be rude? You spend the money for the first wedding gift. Second wedding, she gets a Sonic gift card in a 99-cent card. Third wedding, a firm handshake. I thought my sister's wedding was. Her husband got blackout drunk and they got into an argument. He passed out and she ended up throwing a bucket of ice water in his face to snap him out of it. She was devastated about it. Happy ending. He made it up to her big time. Also, he felt very out of it, even the next day. Turns out he had traces of Rohypnol in his system. His own brother roofied him in hopes he wouldn't marry my sister because he wanted their own friendship to remain the same. My brother-in-law has disowned most of his family because of this, and his brother just got out of a 4-year prison sentence. The bride, whom I didn't even know, apparently designated me to help decorate the reception hall prior to the wedding. I went to do so, and her mother was there, telling me in a hushed, scared whisper that I better not mess anything up because the bride would be furious. Everything was to be a certain way, and if it was wrong, there'd be hell to pay. I gave her the benefit of the doubt, chalked it up to wedding anxiety, and during the reception I tried to chat with her a bit and she literally rolled her eyes at me. I also didn't see her look at the groom once at the wedding or the reception. They were split less than a year later. The groom confided to me and my husband that the morning of the wedding he'd been filled with an overwhelming feeling of dread and spent several hours just sitting on his lawn, thinking, "I shouldn't do this." But it was paid for, tons of guests were waiting, lots of family, including us, had come in from out of state, and he felt he had to go through with it. Apparently the bride had a history of being awful and controlling. No clue what made him propose to her in the first place. Edit, just Facebook stalked the ex-bride. Her latest status update is announcing her wedding date with a new guy. Someone jokingly asked in the comments if they've set a date for the divorce. Oh snap. Holy shit. My cousin Jen's wedding was basically just a preamble to an elaborate dance of divorce that we all knew was coming from the moment the engagement began. For context, this took place 15 years ago in the backwoods of NC. My family is just a generation or two removed from snake handling in church, So some of the wackiness is the product of upwardly mobile inbreeding and redneck gumption. Just a few things that come to mind. Her fiancé proposed to her over the corpse of her father. He was over with the family watching TV when Jan's dad collapsed on the floor. He died before emergency services arrived. Her boyfriend grabbed her hands as she was sitting next to her father's body, pulled her up to her feet, and then asked her to marry him. He later said that he didn't want her to get away. The fiancé then disappeared for a month the week after the funeral. Nobody knew where to reach him. The bride's white trash mother told Jan that she had to get married within 4 months because she, the mother, my aunt, planned to move to another state with her new boyfriend to avoid bill collectors. When Jan's fiancé showed back up, he was cagey and weird. Eventually, it came out that he'd been living with his ex-girlfriend because she insisted that he had to give her a month of his life, or she'd take him to court for child support that he was supposed to be paying on their infant son, but had never paid. Throughout all of this, Jan continued to insist that she wanted to marry him. My mother and I did most of the wedding prep and arrangements. Jan's mum, despite insisting on the 4-month timeline to help pay for the wedding before her move, never contributed a dime, and we were both pretty convinced that the wedding was going to be cancelled at any moment. But the day arrived, and so did the principal players. At the wedding itself, the groom walked around drinking PBR out of a massive travel thermos with a novelty straw, and told everyone who would listen that Jan was a good starter wife. Jan threw several tantrums about stupid shit, including one in which she accused the groom of stealing her drink. He told her she was a dumb whore, but it all worked out because then she found her drink. The groom pulled the ring off of Jan's finger during the reception and swallowed it as a joke. The groom picked a fight with his father because his dad had asked the ex-girlfriend to stay at home, and the groom had really wanted her to be there. Jan was in the dark about this invitation until the fight broke out. Epilogue. Shocking precisely nobody, except possibly Jen herself, they eventually did divorce. Eating the ring caused the groom some discomfort, so they had to cancel their honeymoon to the mountains so that he could go to the and get hospital-grade laxatives. They lost money on the cancellation and the visit, which they really didn't have to lose. That resulted in some immediate debt problems, and they lost the trailer they'd planned to rent when they couldn't come up with a deposit. That resulted in both of them moving into the groom's parents' home, into his old bedroom. Things went downhill from there. The groom's ex-girlfriend popped back up less than 3 months after the wedding, heavily pregnant with his second child. She went after him for another shared month, but Jan wasn't cool with it. The ex ended up taking him to court for child support. Jan got a second job to make ends meet while resigning herself to living with her in-laws for a while longer. One day, after he dropped her off at work, the groom sold Jan's car. He then disappeared for several more weeks. She lost both jobs, and shortly thereafter realized she was pregnant. The groom accused her of cheating because he thought he couldn't have more than 2 children in a lifetime, and his ex-girlfriend had already filled the quota. As I understand it, this is what ultimately caused the rift in their relationship. When the father of the bride, tells the groom, "How can you marry somebody like her? You are too nice. You deserve better." Surely enough, the marriage lasted less than 3 years. During the whole time, the wife was doing drugs and prostituted herself to get money for drugs. Father of the bride at my best friend's wedding told him, "She's, the bride, is just like her mother. I don't know how you're doing this." They got divorced less than a year later. We knew the couple was in trouble when they frowned during most of the ceremony and later didn't go on a honeymoon because they couldn't agree on a destination. They had plenty of money, just no desire to compromise. At the end of the reception, the guys are sitting at a table away from everyone else talking, and we ask the groom why he proposed. His answer: because she was naked. Marriage lasted about a year and a half. Husband proposed while we were both naked. I just got out of the shower and he was getting in. Been together 9 years, so it can't be all bad. Maybe mutual nudity is the key. I really like the idea of seeing you're so naked, probably for the 100th or so time, coming out of the shower and being like, I need to see this forever. During the ceremony, when the priest started asking the bride, "Do you take this man to be your," she started laughing uncontrollably and couldn't stop. It was cute for about 10 seconds and then things got real uncomfortable. They lasted a year and change. We all kinda knew the only reason they were getting married was because she got pregnant. This sounds like a particular flavor of panic attack. I've seen it before, where someone who won't let themselves cry bursts out laughing instead. It's kind of disturbing and really sad.